I skipped into work every day on Trigger Point. This particular season, the magic was there.
But once you go down, you can't come up for 5 hours. And I also got to drive a tube.
It's one of the moments in my career that I'm most proud of.
We are dealing with a serial killer.
The devices are designed to kill, but first he wants to suffocate them.
I think we've really tried to give it an uplift this season. I mean, that's what you want to do when you're returning with any series. I think Trigger Point being such a machine that it is, we've tried to do that through the camera, through the characters, through the plot, all those kind of things. So yeah, it's gone up a notch.
The challenges are to be embraced, which is trying to figure out how it works, what makes it, if you're pardon the pun, tick, and how you can really pull people in and make it feel fresh the whole time. And I think, each device has to be something a little bit different, has to further the plot. And I think that process, that writing process starts with the writer, but then, when it gets into Jamie's hands and the cast hand, they rewrite it to a certain, to make it work for them on set, and then it gets the edit and it's almost rewritten again. So it's brilliant to be part of a process where everybody takes it on a step further.
I think it's really tricky as a director coming into an established series. In a way, it's a lot harder than setting up series because you can't start afresh. There's an expectation and quite a hardcore fan base, especially with Trigger Point, that are wanting certain things. And I think as a director, you have to come in and you have to understand, why was this show a success? Let's take those elements, but then I have to put my own stamp on it and bring something new as well. And that is actually quite tricky to come at it in that way, and that's the challenge that I love. And I really wanted to lean into the cinematic element of it. We make great TV in Britain, and we know that we're up against huge American shows, and I really wanted to try and elevate this series so it can compete and it can battle against the other shows and can stand up for itself. So elevating it along with my team, with Chaz Bain and my editor as well, Chris Roebuck, to really lean in and make it almost feel like a full Hollywood experience. So we worked really hard to elevate the look without detaching it too much from what's happened before.
It really delivers. I think Jamie, and we're very, very lucky to have Jamie and to have that experience and really feel the evolution of the show and really feel a clear identity in it. And it's thrilling. I mean, it's from the opening, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's really great. That thing about British TV as well is you can't fault this show's ambition. And what's been amazing in this whole process from the very, very beginning of coming on board is every piece of ambition that we may have had creatively has been met with the ambition to make it work. And everybody's been willing to do the work to bring these things to life that you think, I've not seen that before on British TV.
Well, funnily enough, it was strange because my kids had just done Lord of the Flies for 7 months in Malaysia, and I'd gone with them, and I was only meant to stay 2 weeks, but it was so amazing that I stayed the whole time. So when I came home, I went, I've got to go to work. I've got to go to work. I've got to get some money. I just put it out there that I was desperate to go to work, and Trigger Point came up. And I didn't know much about it at the time, and now I realise that it was actually a massive thing. There's a whole community of people who are really, really interested in Trigger Point, and it's hugely successful.
Basically, in terms of what's happened over the last 2 series, which if people have watched it, there's been a lot of loss, and she's seen an awful lot of trauma. So it's bringing that to the forefront, and it's trying to see how she's dealing with her PTSD, find out that she's also using prescription medication. She's also suffering with tinnitus. So those 3 elements are really difficult for her while she's trying to do the day job and stay, with a cool head. But Lana's not a sharer. She doesn't particularly want to let people know that she's going through those things. She doesn't want to be seen as weak. And so she's got to balance all of these things while she's also trying to lead the team.
This being the 3rd series, and I guess the journey of us finding our characters is something that I believe isn't necessarily seamless, but it's something that is familiar.
Yeah, that's
having lived with these characters for almost 4 years now, I believe that these circumstances, for the most part, are reflective of who we are, whether it be age, whether it be relationship or journey or the emotions that come with what we do. We've all felt that before, so it's not too far, I'd say, from us, and so it's easy to slot back in.
There's some continuity, and like you said, because it's series 3, there's something to look back on. You've got something to refer back to. It becomes clear in terms of how you speak.
Right.
So you'll notice if like a word, you might not use vocabulary in a certain fashion.
Yeah.
So you'll notice that on a script. If, for instance, there might be the odd word that seems like, oh, Has wouldn't, I wouldn't speak like that. When I say Has, as in I wouldn't speak like that. Yeah. I've decided that that's not the way Has communicates.
Yeah.
How did I find my character? Well, initially, he's unseen. So that was sort of interesting to kind of play with your body but not your face, to try and tell the story without revealing emotions through your face. So that was kind of cool for the first episode. And then after that, it's just me looking menacing and blowing things up.
I can't watch you give everything until you've got nothing left.
There was no scenes that I dreaded to film. It always makes me excited. When I read the scripts, I'm like, oh, God, that's going to be fun to shoot. I skipped into work every day on Trigger Point. It was such a lovely job, genuinely. I mean, it has been from the start, but this particular season was just, I don't know, the magic was there, something, all the elements were right. And so it was all fun. Genuinely. I mean, it's tough, but I'm sort of not scared of that. I enjoy a challenge. I think there's a water scene that didn't particularly involve me being too involved with the water, but I know that was a huge challenge for the crew. Whenever you're sort of involving kids, animals, water, those kind of elements, it can always... And the explosions, the ones that are the real deal, because some of them are done in post, obviously, but there's a lot of professionals that are on set on those days, and it's about getting that right.
Most challenging scenes to write. Some of them you think this is going to be too difficult, and you write it anyway. You should never let practicality get in the way of your original idea. But actually, there is a scene at the end of episode 1 that I thought this might be too difficult to do, but we did it, and it's very, very satisfying. Jamie's done an incredible job with it. And we've got a fantastic actor called Mark Rowley who joins the team, who's also really excellent. So, that's a great sequence.
From a tension and directing point of view, in this situation, we were in the boot of a taxi. And how do you make 20 minutes and keep that tension and keep that interest where we're not moving locations and it's actually very intense there? So from a directing and acting point of view, to keep that tension and excitement up in a very restricted location was a real challenge for us.
A scene that I anticipated a lot is Danny's driving scene. I can't go too much into it, obviously, but it was very demanding, and in watching it all come together and having watched it all back, I think it's one of the moments in my career that I'm most proud of and most excited about in terms of the delivery of the work.
Nice, man.
And
nice.
Yeah, I think that people are going to be in for a bit of a surprise.
There are two parts to this. The first one is I really enjoy the individual scenes, the scenes that I have with Vicky, with Lana, where they're much more emotional. It's about her well-being, and that's like when Has is speaking to her as a human, and I really like those scenes because there's a lot of action, there's a lot of procedure, and then there's these little moments of just human interaction where they, in a sense, put down all their weaponry and this and that and the other, and just have a chat. I love that. But then the other part is I do like the big set pieces. The big set pieces when we're all there and it feels like a choreography, and we're kind of fanning across, and so both of those are great.
I also do really enjoy the scene between myself, Nabil, and Vicky, where there's sort of like a clash of wants, and somebody has to play the mediator.
Yeah, that was good. That's a nice scene.
Or manage what's going on, or be the angel to the devil on someone else's shoulder. So it's those are really fun because we get to work together quite closely at this point.
And those scenes are scenes which are really about acting in the sense that it's really about communicating and trying to get something from somebody. So that was just reminded. That's a lovely scene though. Yeah.
Lana!
What? Talk to me, mate.
My favourite part of doing Trigger Point was working with Vicky. I mean, when you're a footballer and you play football with Ronaldo, you look like a terrible footballer. But with acting, when you act with great actors, it brings you up to their place. You always do your best work with the best actors. It's not like a boxing match where you're trying to win or lose against the other person. It's a collaborative thing. And when you look into someone's eyes and you see truth, it's easy to look back and be honest. And honesty is the basis of all great acting.
Yeah, Jason was brilliant. I mean, he's a ball of energy. So the minute he walked in, I just knew he'd fit straight in, because that's, you know, if you meet people like Nabil and Eric and, you know, all the team really, everybody's just really welcoming, and Jason was absolutely that. Also a powerhouse in the game. You know, I've seen loads of his work, so it was a pleasure to be able to share the screen with him. He's got that kind of like raw, real actor's energy where he'll go, should we try this? And I'll think, oh yeah, great, I'm up for trying most things, do you know what I mean? And see what comes from it. And so, yeah, we had quite a lot of action scenes together, which again is always great fun. So there was always a bit of a tussle going on. And so, yeah, we enjoyed that. But I mean, what can I say? It was just a real coup to get him on the show.
I really enjoyed those days. I've been able to get on set. I've really enjoyed seeing people all coming together and making a sequence work. And you forget that you're cold, and you forget that it's February, and it's really, really enjoyable. So I don't know if I have any particular, but I've really enjoyed the whole lot.
The tube scene was one of my favourite things, because when we found that wasn't actually initially written and it was part of the chase, and I called Chris and I was like, we've had a bit of a thought, we potentially have the option to have a tube station in London, could we put it in there? Chris was like, yeah, let's do it. So we actually got access to it, and there's what a lot of people don't realise is, I won't tell you the actual tube station, but there's a secret door and you go in there and you literally have an abandoned tube station to yourself where you can film. But once you go down, you can't come up for 5 hours. So we had to...
Really?
Yeah, because you can't come up in and out between the rush hour times.
Oh, wow.
So once we descended in there, there's no escape, and you have to get it all done in 5 hours and come back up. But...
it's a great sequence.
It is. And I also got to drive a tube.
Did you?
Yeah, they let me drive.
Are you
it.
the one driving when it comes in?
No,
okay.
But they let me do it not in the take. I was actually watching the monitor then, but when we were doing the test, they let me give it a go.
Good.
So yeah, that's a life ambition of mine done.
It's so satisfying that as well, because then you get into the sort of that world, being able to film on the tube as well.
Yeah.
You get into the sort of Jason Bourne and James Bond of it,
Yeah,
and you have
it's
a
a
great
lot of fun.
Yeah.
Filming a season back to back like that is the first for me, and it's a huge challenge, a huge ask for the crew members that were staying on for the entirety. But I must say, I think because, you know, the industry's had a bumpy road recently, and I think it was just really settling for some people to know that they got a big chunk of work ahead of them, and so we could settle in, make everywhere homely, you know, build up some really lovely friendships, and that happened from day one, which was great. I think from an executive point of view, I loved being able to have my handle on the script and just make sure that, you know, I can put a bit of what I think should be in there in terms of Lana, and also encouraging the cast as a whole to do the same and giving people that freedom. And because of people like Chris, our lead writer, and Jamie, who started us on series 3, the director, everyone was up for it, everybody was game. I have to say, on Trigger Point, from the very top with, you know, the brilliant Jimmy Morville and Jed Mercurio, right the way down, that really filters in that we're you know, it's a decent group of people that really want to collaborate. So it just sets the tone. And so for me as an executive producer, it's an easier job. It's not a firefight. It's just giving people the space to play, enjoying the fact when you try something and it doesn't quite work out. You know, it's not a bad thing. They're sometimes some of the best things that can happen. So yeah, it's been a real happy job with great people that have been able to enhance all their talents. I feel like every crew, I keep calling it one department. That's how it felt. I think sometimes departments can feel quite, you know, sort of together in their own place, which I totally get. But this felt like everyone was mucking in. You know, costume were helping out, camera, lighting were, you know, helping out costume, and props was helping out with, you know, whatever, the runners and stuff. It just felt like everybody mucked in, and you'll see that on screen. I really believe, and I think through experience, if it's been an extraordinarily happy shoot, then it filters into the screen.